Good afternoon and welcome to CSIS. My name is Sujay Shivakumar. I'm a senior fellow here at CSIS where I direct the program on renewing American innovation. Today we will explore an issue that is critical to securing the future of advanced manufacturing in the United States, namely the challenge of building a skilled technical workforce. America's manufacturing is critical to the nation's economic growth and national security. And after experimenting with what happens when we offshore much of our manufacturing for some decades, we now learned some basic lessons, and I would add, we learned them the hard way. First is that the innovation and manufacturing are tightly coupled. So if you offshore manufacturing, the related research and innovation activities will follow it out of the country. So we need to manufacture here and retain the advantages of innovation. Second, we need to manufacture here to connect our own citizens to the benefits of our investments in research and development. Many in the United States have been disconnected from the benefits of our innovation economy while impacted by its disruptions. This creates stresses within our own society, our own political systems, and this is again an issue for our national security. Third, firms look to manufacture in locations where they find skilled workers. If we want to secure the benefits of manufacturing, we do need to invest in our workforce, which is the focus of our discussions here today. And finally, our workforce education and training systems need to be realigned to cope with our current needs. We need new tools and methods to engage with students and workers who face the realities of living in the 21st century. So as a nation, we are facing unprecedented challenges, which we will need to engage both our innovative potential as well as our industrial capacities. So a point of definition, the term skilled technical workforce refers to occupations that require a high level of knowledge in a technical domain, but do not require a bachelor's degree for entry. They are a key component of the U.S. economy. These individuals who are part of the skilled technical workforce, and in response to the globalization and advances in science and technology, American firms are demanding workers with greater proficiency in literacy and numeracy, as well as in strong interpersonal, technical, and problem-solving skills. However, employment surveys and industry government reports have raised concerns that the nation may not have an adequate supply of skilled technical workers to achieve its competitiveness and economic growth objectives. So this is the challenge that the semiconductor industry and other industries are seeking to deal with as they are seeking to move more production onshore. It's an urgent problem. U.S. chip makers are already grappling with a talent shortage. And when the new U.S. fabs now being planned and constructed come on stream, an additional 70,000 to 90,000 fab workers are likely to be needed. So how do we deal with this workforce crunch? Well, we have an expert panel today to help us answer this question. To get things started, I'd like to introduce to you Mike Russo, who's the president of the National Institute for Innovation and Technology, and he will then make some introductory remarks and then introduce the panel that we have today. Just a quick note in terms of introducing Mike. Prior to founding NIIT, Mike Russo was the vice president of the Industry Advancement and Government Programs at SEMI. He spent nearly a decade leading the Corporate Government Affairs Office in the U.S. for Global Foundries. He also served as a senior staffer at both the U.S. Senate and House. And prior to his work in Congress, Mike was an executive officer for the nation's oldest industrial union. So really an interesting combination of government, industry, and union experiences. So I think really few have his breadth of experience and expertise, and I think we're really fortunate to have him join us today. So please welcome Mike Russo to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujay. And I think I'll start today by referencing the title slide, which you don't usually do. It's something you blow through. And I was thinking about it. If you notice, the only time semiconductor is mentioned, which is the topic of today's discussion, the semiconductor talent pipeline, is in a logo where it says, we're the nation's leader for semiconductor talent pipeline development. But if you look at the subtitle, Creating Opportunity and Building the Nation's Advanced Manufacturing Talent Pipeline Through Skills-Based Learning and expanding registered apprenticeships. There's 3 or 4 components in there which we're going to explore, and are actually key components of a national strategy. When people talk about, there's a big buzzword now, sector-specific strategies. We have to have a sector-specific strategy for semiconductor. Well, there's not that many jobs, and it's a cyclical industry. One of the problems under the current education system and our current approach is the pipeline's not deep enough, it's not broad enough. People that don't have degrees and don't have the luxury of being specialized won't ever even enter the pipeline. So our strategy addresses that. The other thing I'd like to do is really say thank you. First of all, thank you to Sujay and the Renewing American Innovation Project for hosting us today. But also, I'm sure it'd be great to be able to claim the fact that we're the nation's leader in semiconductor talent pipeline development, and we've developed this strategy and infrastructure yet we're responsible for. But truth be told, it's more than a decade's worth of work that went into it, and there's some people here today that have been advisors and supporters and have helped with funding, et cetera, through the years to get to where we are today to build this strategy. So the National Science Foundation ATE network, which is a real jewel in the federal government when it comes to really that skilled technical workforce. Been a partner for years, helping to advise and support. So thank you, Celeste. And there's other folks in the room and on the line as well that I will mention. So the U.S. Department of Labor, Employment and Training Administration, the person responsible for ONET and the COMPSI Model Clearinghouse in that portfolio, Pam Frugally. I believe she's on the line. She couldn't make it today. She's here virtually, so she's listening as I embarrass her. She's been a partner for many years as well, and helping to make sure that the U.S. education system has a strong skills-based component and a competency-based component. That's baked into everything that we've done, and so the work from USDOL, ETA absolutely should be recognized. We have industry partners, one of which actually is on the panel today. Clara represents Applied Materials. I will say that Applied isn't just out there looking at what is there for them. They've actually put some skin in the game over a number of years as we looked at all the various competency models that are out there, and we decided to come up with, we needed to have a database to you'll learn about the National Talent Hub later on, which is it's available to all states and regions to leverage. Applied said, you know what, we're going to put skin in the game. We're going to put our lead on that to make sure the system does what industry needs it to do. And so we went through a process to not only develop the architecture, but to look at a 30 or 40,000 base competency, all the competency models out there, and boil it down to 700 or 800 competencies that now are actually dynamic, they're alive, and real time when there's a change in industry, that system picks it up and signals all training providers and those trying to map careers. So thanks to Applied, so you're, I guess, a client because you have, our national, you're in our Gaines Registered Apprenticeship program around the country, but thank you for your service really to the nation. And then I also want to just mention quickly the CHIPS office. Daunting task. Never as a country have we ever done that before. There's a group within the DOC CHIPS office that is focused on workforce, and they are really trying to do really good work to figure out how best to spend those really limited dollars. People think, oh, $52 billion. It's, first of all, the amount of money that's going to find its way to workforce isn't that big. And we can eat it up in a heartbeat if we take a fragmented approach. So they're trying to figure out how do we leverage existing investments, existing work, what the government has already done across the agencies, and make that known. So the other thing that they're doing is, if you think about horizontal versus vertical, horizontally through all U.S. government agencies, how do you herd the cats for those that have been involved in government relations, right? How do you herd the cats so everybody points in the same direction and funds the same integrated activity? And then on a vertical, how do you actually get states to behave, right, quote unquote, right, to align with that work? So again, hats off to the CHIPS office, and it's a daunting task, and we are here to help them as well. So let's, without any further ado, kind of get into the presentation. So today's discussion is a little bit refreshing because we are here to talk about a strategy that exists. It's not theory. It's not what we think should be done. It's not admiring the problem. The group that I mentioned and many more than that, we've actually developed a strategy that began in 2010 and infrastructure, and we're now executing it. And so I mentioned earlier that the strategy for semiconductor is to build a broader foundational pipeline, a talent pipeline with foundational skills, translational skills. And so our panel today, which I'll talk about in a minute, is uniquely positioned, I think, to talk about the needs of the semiconductor industry, what's being done, and really our approach. So one of the things that we're also going to explore in the discussion is how do we leverage existing work? In our panelists today, not only do we have people that are involved in current, taking advantage of the infrastructure, help to develop it, involved with the programs that exist, we also have a very big company here that's on the panel going to be participating virtually, Intel. For those of you who don't know Intel, they're a small semiconductor company in the U.S. The numbers are daunting, but I think that they may be the only entity, and coming from the industry, I don't want to say speak with somewhat authority, but not only are they an integrated device manufacturer, they design and make their own chips in their own factories, for those that don't know the lingo, but they're also in the foundry business, have these big assets. How do we make chips for others and monetize those assets? And they also design. So their R&D, they're the full spectrum. They have huge operations in Oregon, Arizona fabs, Ohio is going to be up and running. So their approach is they do a lot of their work on talent pipeline development in-house. And what we're going to talk about today, and if you think about it, how can the work that we've done in partnership with our U.S. government friends feed in to that pipeline where the Intels of the world, then they can take to the higher level talent. And I don't want to jump Gabby's discussion. She's going to talk about their novel approach to really open the door for higher careers. But all this work can feed right into that, which is great. And then we'll get into some questions, open dialogue after presentations from the panelists. I mentioned Applied Materials, and I mentioned Intel. I didn't mention Matt Gratten. Matt Gratten, semiconductor, plug power. Why is plug power involved here, right? Well, first of all, they do use technology, but to show the depth and breadth and the need to develop a talent pipeline and how it works, they're actually one of the largest producers of hydrogen generation manufacturing units. And they have locations around the country. They're involved with the Gaines Registered Apprenticeship Program. Actually, their CEO was involved in actually the industry spokesman at launching one of the career opportunity hubs in New York, which we'll talk about in a little while. But they leveraged the apprenticeship, they leveraged the talent hub. But uniquely, I'm jumping the bios a little bit on purpose. Matt actually spent 19 years at a State Department of Labor. He spent years in a community college. And now he runs workforce development inside an industry partner. So not only is he unique as an individual, can speak to it wearing many hats, but he also, from an industry perspective, can talk about how that broader pipeline makes sense. And then we're going to talk, Jim McCoy, I don't want to jump we made an announcement last week, which is a really big deal, and we're going to talk about an innovative approach that we're undertaking to really get many more people into the talent pipeline that would not otherwise have a chance, and they're a leadership in that space. And last but not least is Martha Ponge. Martha is with our, she's our Director of National Apprenticeships at the Institute. She's an engineer by schooling, a mechanical engineer. She shifted over to education to help to grow engineers, and then she spent more than a decade leading registered apprenticeship program development and execution. So I think I have Clara, I have Gabby. Gabby actually heads up their university research collaborations and really a lot of the work on workforce development at Intel. But I think the important part of what they bring to the table is they are the player in that space. So you can actually talk about it from multiple perspectives. So why is a national strategy important? I think anybody that took the time out to come here today, either virtually or in the room, kind of knows some of these statistics. It's kind of scary. There just is not enough talent. And the challenge is it is a cyclical business. There's a lot of fabs that are going to be built. There's a lot of money that's going to be invested. How do you get the talent? And the talent is building the fabs, operating the fabs, maintaining the fabs, designing chips. There's a lot of talent. And it's the same pipeline that's basically used by multiple strategic and tech-based industries. So the national strategy and infrastructure, really, we have to look at it at how do we develop the tools on a national level, the infrastructure on a national level, so the states and regions and employers can use it, right? So it's at their disposal. I can assure you, after living more than a decade doing this work, this development work, nobody in this room is going to get that done, the infrastructure to that degree done on a national level, anytime soon. And you're going to learn what it is, and that it's at your disposal. And by the way, we're a 501c3. We don't run for office. We don't have to get credit. So for those of you in the room that need to get credit in your day job, just quietly take advantage of it, right? So really, this infrastructure does support regional talent pipeline and place-based economic development. It really helps to eliminate the fragmentation of efforts. That's another important aspect of a national strategy and infrastructure. It really takes the need out of those regions to figure out that roadmap. We sponsored an event in Ohio recently, just last week I think it was, and I was speaking there, and it was interesting, one of the panels doing all this great work, but we don't have a strategy and a roadmap. I'm like, you have it, you don't even know. There's a posse that you didn't know you had. And then also, how do you make sure that the funding is applied on regional deployment? There's more money for deployment versus development. It really is not only more efficient, but it's effective use of funds. Key components of the strategy really is, again, I mentioned this earlier, but it really can't be overstated, is developing those transferable and foundational skills much more broadly. And ensuring skills-based learning is not piecemeal, school district here, school district there, but throughout the entire U.S. education system. And we are executing a strategy to actually do that. And in creating a dynamic tool to connect individuals to jobs and needed training. You'll learn more about that. And provide that those learn and earn opportunities for those that may not otherwise be able to be engaged. You're going to learn about that. It's all in there, right? We're not talking about what needs to happen. It actually exists. And the goal of all this, and it's a key component, is substantially increasing the pipeline of participants that are in the pipeline. We can't do, the current system is onesies and twosies and 12sies and 50-ish. It doesn't get you there, right? You need to put thousands more in a system, and the strategy also addresses that. So key components, really, it's really having a comprehensive approach to engage that broader population to increase the pipeline. And really the three groups that we're targeting, and the strategy addresses that, is I mentioned the K through 12 system. So state by state, region by region, we have the ability to, and will be, expanding our reach so that the K through 12 system, do they have the right experience learning early on? Do they have early college, high school programs, CTE programs with the right curriculum matched to the target industries in the region? And then getting those high schoolers into the talent hub so they can map their careers, get connected with employers. And Matt, in the hub that your CEO was at recently, we started by the regional CTE program, about 1,200 people. Every one of those individuals already mapped to jobs this year. Every one of them, all of them, right? And that'll expand out to the 24 school districts, 84,000 kids, and then go across from the capital region to New York, to Buffalo, Syracuse, Utica, Rochester, Binghamton, and we're doing similar hubs around the country where everyone has access to learn and earn. Everybody has access to the talent hub. The other cohort are returning service members. We just were recently approved by DOL to make the talent hub available to all returning service members and their families. So they will be able to get connected directly to employers that are in the hub, et cetera. We've worked with SkillBridge. We've worked through the bases, base up, Pentagon down. The bottom line, and we've tried to, we looked at adding credentials and certificates into the hub and go according to MOSs, which are different in every branch of the service. The system actually does all the translation, no need to do that. So that's a pretty powerful piece, very diverse audience. And lastly, and we're going to talk a little bit about that during the manpower discussion, is adults in general that are out there that would not otherwise participate in this pipeline. We absolutely have a way to open the door to get them into gateway positions that have basic materials, chemicals, fabrication, electromechanical. And manpower, by the way, our partnership there, we're talking ultimately is going to be thousands of workers, right, that may think their lot in life is, I'm kind of temporary, I'm a staffer, semiconductor cyclical, I'm in and out. I'll let Jim do the talking on that. We're going to do a little intro video for Jim. So on all this work comes under what we call the National Talent Pipeline Development Initiative, and again, we're responsible for leading that, but again, can't take all the credit. Key components of the strategy, it's really designed to really attract and engage a much broader audience and create those opportunities and pathways for the entire population. The connectivity we talked about through the Talent Hub, and then really developing that pipeline for those industries that are important to national security and global competitiveness. Uh-oh. Let me see what happened here. We're back on track. And then also, if I'm a state and I'm developing, putting together an economic development strategy, leveraging this infrastructure and this approach actually helps you there. So we support regional place-based economic development. So also we look at a strategy. It really has to incorporate what we do today to address really the supply chain and talent pipeline really throughout the entire supply chain, starting with construction all the way through operation. It's really supporting those mature ecosystems. It's developing the pool of talent in advance of new ecosystems. So the Intels of the world, yes, we factored that in. If you're going to invest $1 or $2 in a region, right, we want to make sure that happens. And then also support that site development longer term in operations. So our Center for Skills-Based Learning, that's where the work resides to make sure the education system has that strong skills-based component. And we'll talk about the Talent Hub, and that's a key component of the infrastructure to really connect those three stakeholder groups, make sure there's a strong skills-based component, and really help to manage the training and make sure it's targeted to where the gaps are. And making sure that the programs are linked to industry requirements, and that really, our Learn and Earn program, the registered apprenticeship, is a way for people to go to work while they learn. That's the gateway, very, very important. Martha's going to be talking about that. And our mechanism to scale is really through the regional talent career opportunity hubs. So with that, our National Talent Hub, really, I mentioned the stakeholder groups. It's the only system on the planet that has real-time connectivity. And when an employer has an incremental change in a job requirement, a proficiency level, whether they need it on day 1 or day 10, it instantly signals the system. There's nothing like it that's out there. And it really does make sure that no more knocking on doors and buying donuts and hope the right company shows up to tell you what they need. It's all automated. And it really helps to interconnect the entire pipeline. And it helps you to prioritize skills. So the key attributes, once again, are, I'm going to list them out here just quickly, right? I mentioned the industry input. That was key because now they don't have to say, do you have this certificate or that certificate? If the system tells you you're aligned, you're aligned. Also, the Comprehensive Competency Standards database I said they developed, it sits live in the system. It's dynamic. We also launched the nation's first semiconductor competency model last year. It's live in the system. It's dynamic. And then also the really facilitate, when an individual establishes a profile, it's for life. Every time they qualify, if I qualified as Machine Tech 1 and Intel at a certain location, the system knows what competencies required, it populates their profile. If they graduated from a degree program or a certificate program somewhere, it populates their profile. It helps them to map skills, assess skills, and identify gaps. And really, it really does create a very detailed competency-based linkage between the job requirements, required training, and individuals. So this is I did this for Pam Frugally. There's her competency model. So we've redesigned and we maintain the advanced manufacturing model as well as semiconductor, which I said is live in the system now. So with that, we're going to go to a quick video to kind of walk you through what the Talent Hub is and does.
The National Institute for Innovation and Technology was launched in 2018 with the mission to identify roadblocks to innovation in strategic industry sectors and ensure they are eliminated. Developing a national workforce strategy is a priority for the NIIT, and the National Talent Hub provides the infrastructure underpinning the NIIT's National Talent Pipeline Development Initiative. A qualified and diversified technical workforce is key to U.S. leadership in our STEM-driven strategic industry sectors. Unfortunately, a significant deficit of qualified talent exists, and the gap continues to grow. The National Talent Hub is a cloud-based solution in infrastructure designed to connect talent, employers, and training providers in strategic tech-based industries. Developed in part with funding from the National Science Foundation Advanced Technological Education Program and a partnership with the State University of New York Polytechnic Institute and the U.S. Department of Labor Employment and Training Administration, the National Talent Hub is an integrated system leveraging a dynamic competency-driven approach which aligns jobs, training, and talent profiles for the purpose of building a wider workforce pipeline, reaching a broader spectrum of experienced education and personnel diversity. With a consumer-focused gateway, the Talent Hub provides a symmetric experience to bring together the three stakeholders of talent, employers, and training providers. Each stakeholder group is provided a customizable experience, including a user-focused dashboard with movable tiles for metrics and applications within the Talent Hub. At the center is the talent. The interface is exclusively designed to be a fully integrated system to attract, assess, hire, train, and advance individual students, job seekers, veterans, and employees. Individuals create a lifelong learning profile which tracks all their education, training, and work experience and incrementally increases the depth of their individual competency profile. Underpinning the entire system is a comprehensive competency standards database representing the knowledge, skills, and abilities employers require for individuals to perform in technician and engineer-based positions. What is unique to the National Talent Hub is the ability to determine the degree of alignment between competency profiles. Because job training and individual profiles are all created using the same competency standards database, employers can use the Talent Hub to compare job to training program, and job to individual. Training providers can use the Talent Hub to compare training program to training program to job, and training program to individual. And individuals can use the Talent Hub to compare their personal profile to target job profiles, and where there may be a gap, use the Talent Hub to find training programs to close that gap. As in the case here, the individual determines that they have a 23% match to a target job. The buttons to the right give them more detail, but let's take a look at what happens if they select the button labeled View Training Options. With one click, the individual determines that completion of an electrical engineering degree at a regional community college will advance their skills profile to an 80% match for the target job. Another value proposition is the shorter one-year semiconductor maintenance certificate, which advances their skills profile to a 68% match. Here's what drives those insights. In our symmetric design, all profiles are aligned to the same competency standards database. Employers, training providers, and individuals choose competencies and mark a level of proficiency. They may also indicate other related data such as impact, frequency, teaching method, or related work experience. As in this case, a training provider can compare line by line how their competency profile aligns to a target job profile. In some areas, they will find their program exceeds the job requirements, while in other areas, their program may be below job requirements. This insight can drive decisions on additional course development and alignment, adding efficiencies for both pre- and post-employment training programs. Before now, competency frameworks had no mechanism to track how they were being used or to validate their relevance. Traditional competency design and validation requires a costly in-person process of assembling subject matter experts and completing detailed job analysis. This resource-intensive process results in static competency frameworks with a revalidation cycle of 4 years or more. The National Talent Hub provides the first truly dynamic, data-driven competency framework. Every job posting, course description, and individual skills profile provides real-time tracking of each and every competency item. At any time, data analysts can click View Usage to determine how and where each competency item is being used. The result is that a wider base of employers, training providers, and talent is represented, and the competency model responds dynamically to the demand of the market. High-demand competencies rise to the top. Dormant competencies are gradually phased out, and emerging competencies are tested for demand and relevance. The National Talent Hub was designed as part of a nationwide strategy to be a single, nationally integrated, state-of-the-art system that is available to states and regions to support talent pipeline development and economic development strategies. It provides the first and only automated system to enable real-time curriculum alignment with tech-based jobs. It supports the U.S. DOL's guideline standards for the advanced manufacturing and semiconductor competency models. And it enables effective engagement of a broader segment of the population through no-cost access to lifelong learning profiles, skills assessments, and career and education mapping tools for individuals. Under an exclusive contract with the USDOL to expand registered apprenticeships throughout the U.S. nanotechnology and semiconductor supply chains, an innovative NIIT-led partnership called GAINS, or Growing Apprenticeships in Nanotechnology and Semiconductors, is utilizing the Talent Hub to drive the expansion of innovative, employer-driven, competency-based apprenticeships designed specifically for related industries. The NIIT continues to collaborate with a broadening network of partners to build additional structure to our competency standards database and provide the most comprehensive and effective competency-driven talent hub for strategic industry sectors. For more information or to request an in-person demonstration, visit our websites at nationaltalenthub.com or niit.org.
Okay, and you can get more information on any of this, obviously, so we're just going to run through this and get to the presentations. You heard GAINS, Growing Apprenticeships in Semiconductors and Nanotechnology. So Martha's going to speak a little bit about our GAINS program and why that's how it's an important part of the strategy to build the talent pipeline. We do have the exclusive USDOL contract in semiconductor and nanotechnology to expand those apprenticeships and establish those apprenticeships. So it's really designed for those target industries. That learn and earn approach is very, very important, again, especially for those folks that would not otherwise be able to pursue college, et cetera. It is competency-based versus hours-based. It covers equipment, process, and related competencies, electromechanical, et cetera. It does build really those strong foundational skills to make sure that there's a good level of proficiency in those gateway positions. But it also helps people to, it's stackable. It helps them to climb the ladder within the employers, various employers. It's really supported internally when I say internally, the NIT. We do have a very high level of subject matter expertise in not only registered apprenticeship, but the target industries, as well as education and working directly with colleges and universities, et cetera. It's really covers all the sites under one program. So, for example, Applied Material, their program is in multiple states. You don't have to recreate the wheel. You can move talent from one location to another. We take the burden off you from administration perspective to establish those programs with the various states, et cetera. There's no cost. It's fully funded. And in fact, we can apply incentive funding to help establish these programs. And we work with regional entities to help to facilitate it as well. In that curriculum alignment and really the connection to the talent pipeline, et cetera, really happens through the Talent Hub. Here's the good news. We established the program before there was any registered program in semiconductors. It didn't fit, building trades model. So when the government decided to do an RFP for semiconductors and nanotechnology, we were encouraged to apply. So that program wasn't established until last year, and anybody that's done anything like this from a program, you know it takes a while to get it up and running. But since then, we now have 59 programs that are up and running in various stages of establishment in the states. We have, effective last week, 2,071 apprentices, but look at the DEI number, 81%. Broadening the pipeline, it's working. We're in 17 states, and we have 43 community colleges and training providers in our national network of community colleges, and that's growing every day. So that's who provides our related technical instruction. And we're deploying the Talent Hub and the GAINS program throughout the country in what we call career opportunity hubs. And basically, I mentioned earlier how we go in and evaluate an ecosystem and stand up these programs and bring in the Talent Hub and the GAINS program. I mentioned Matt was in the New York launch, but we're in right now multiple states, and ultimately there will be a framework, think of it as the hub and spoke model, where we leverage those regional assets to establish the model. And really an important aspect of this is really bringing in that K-12 system to make sure there's a strong skill-based component. So what we're doing is really region by region and engaging those stakeholders, making sure that they're aligned with the strategy and infrastructure, they can leverage it. And from on the outcome side, it's really making sure that we create that interconnected pathway of skills-based learning tied to those industries and to help to eliminate fragmentation. So in the presentation, which you'll have access to, these are the key folks from the Institute if you want to talk to anybody. Martha's here today. Robert Wyman is our Director of Workforce Innovation. That's more Talent Hub, working with community colleges directly with industry. He came from industry and training in L&D. And Pam Howe's PhD in Workforce Development, but she's a 7-year Army veteran and has established all kinds of programs as well. So that's our team. And without any further ado, let's get into the presentations. First, we're going to start out with Martha from our apprenticeship program. She runs that national portfolio. So Martha, you want to come on up and I warmed this thing up so the arrows work.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here and to be able to share what our organization is doing with you across the nation. As Mike said, in 2021, we were awarded a USDOL contract called GAINS, Growing Apprenticeships in Nanotechnology and Semiconductors. And although our primary focus is on those industry sectors such as semiconductors, biopharma, green and clean energy, we as an organization understand that our mission is to develop talent that can be utilized across the broad spectrum of advanced manufacturing. In order to do that, we knew that we had to do 4 things. And first was to attract people from across multiple sectors of society, those that perhaps are interested in coming into manufacturing and really don't need our push, but more importantly, those who are coming from underemployment situations, veterans who are coming out of the service and really don't know what it is that they're going to be doing next. How do we connect them to our jobs in advanced manufacturing? Individuals who are never thought about going into advanced manufacturing because they felt they didn't have the skill set. We knew that we had to attract them, engage them, and bring them to the table. We had to be having ongoing conversations with industry, education, and job seekers. Usually, the scenario is that a talent either talks to an employer or they talk to education. Through the National Talent Hub, we were able to build a platform where all 3 people exist. And you can see inside the curtain, you can see behind the curtain, see what's going on. But more importantly, you hear the conversations. So when technology changes, we get an immediate response from our talent and from our educational providers. When our talent starts to change, when we have to start moving to identify new talent to come into positions, we automatically can look at our employers and say, this is what we're going to do to help to support you. And education providers, this is what we have to help make that journey easier for you. When we say that we want to develop a robust talent pipeline, that really is in support of employers, not a single employer. And I think that that's something that's changed over the last couple of years, is that workforce development has in a lot of ways targeted individual employers and really built programs that supported their industry and that weren't holistic across the advanced manufacturing sector. And what we found is that if we build talent with broad technical skills that are foundational, we've done 2 things. We have not only satisfied the needs of employers who are looking for people that are entering at the gateway positions, but we've also helped to support regional ecosystems. I think this is a time when all of us can really go back and say, a high tide raises all boats. We have to do it on behalf of regional ecosystems, otherwise it's not going to work. So NIIT is the intermediary of choice for leading employers. Mike said 59 different employers have come to the table over really what is the last year. It's pretty impressive. And the reason is because they've started to identify what are the key benefits of registered apprenticeships. Some of the things that we talk about that recruit, train, and retain, those are buzzwords. What they aren't seeing is that when an organization advertises a gateway position as an apprenticeship, we are seeing tenfold numbers of increase in the number of people who come to the table to get those jobs. So think about people that used to get 25 or 30 are now getting 250 or 300 applicants for those same positions. And a lot of times we're seeing it's a higher quality person who wants to take a chance on getting into a high value, high paying job. Training, by utilizing registered apprenticeship, what we are seeing is that we are developing structured training programs, but one of those indirect benefits is that we are developing individuals who have, they belong to a culture of continuous learning. They know, based on the apprenticeship program and the definition of the competencies that are needed to be successful in this job, I've learned this. If I want to move to the next level, this is what I need to learn next. So it becomes inherent. Everybody's doing it. We make it ubiquitous across those gateway positions. People come in and they say, learning is part of my job. It's not something extra. It's not an add-on. And everybody in my company is doing that. Lower cost of acquisition. So we're building something that's more cost-effective for employers as well. When you bring in talent that perhaps doesn't have all of the skills and competencies that you think that they need to be fully competent, they come in at a little bit lower cost of acquisition. But what you're also doing is you're building an internal pool of highly skilled talent that you can target at any time. There was a change in the market. I need 10 people. You probably now have 10 people in your company who are capable of moving into that position with a little more training and or a little bit more education. And we've seen our goal for registered apprentices that come from underrepresented communities was about 50%. And as Mike said, we're at 81% today. And I haven't put in the extra 500 apprentices that are in the pipeline ready to be done, and our number's going to go up. By providing access to jobs, we are naturally diversifying who's coming to the table, and we're really proud of that. Gains specifics. As we're working with Gains, one of the things that being a Gains participant lets you take advantage of is the National Talent Hub. And it's the only platform that is going to allow employers to have direct connection to a pool of trained individuals. Direct connection to community colleges who have already aligned their curriculum with regional employers. And I think the most valuable to me as a hiring manager is that every time an individual puts their profile into the Talent Hub, I can automatically see what the gap is in skills between what it is that I would want as a hiring manager and what this individual comes to the table with. And it doesn't sound like that should be a huge thing, but what it's done is say to us, there are certain things that were priorities in education, priorities in training. If somebody comes to the table with 80% of that, now I know what that 20% is that I need to work on, and I can determine whether that's something that I can do in the next 30 days, the next 60 days, the next year in that apprenticeship program. It allows us to look at the person holistically and determine if they have the capacity for growth, and that's really what we're looking for. People that want to come to the table, they want to get into the queue, and they want the training that's going to allow them to do the job they have today and to have a foundation to build for the job they want tomorrow and in 5 years and in 10 years. And they want to feel like your company's committed. The National Talent Hub really brings that to bear for all of our employers, and that's free. And it comes with, not only is it free to the employer, it's free to the educational institutions that are participating with us, and it's also free to talent. So it's a place that they can go and know that they're getting an accurate read on their skill sets. Although we have really focused on gateway positions, what we're finding as we're working with employers and we get into more mature ecosystems is that a lot of our employers are saying, I love registered apprenticeship as this structured training program, and it is working for my entry-level and mid-level technicians and process technicians. But you know what? Now I want to start working on people like my recent grads. So an engineer who comes to the table and has a ton of knowledge but has very little work experience. A registered apprenticeship program will allow them to get education that supports building their leadership skills, building their industry-specific skills, and that on-the-job training will allow them to be next to a mentor on the floor and really be able to practice those before they're put in a position where they're going to have to use them. And the ease of administration is something that I think every employer has said to us. Having that posse that Mike talked about, having those people behind the scenes that you don't mind calling them at 8 o'clock at night or at 6 o'clock in the morning and saying, I know I'm supposed to fill out a form. I know the DOL is asking me a question, but I don't know what this is. Martha, help. Robert, help. We have a strong team internally, people that have worked in HR, people that have worked in operations, people that have worked with educational providers, and people that have been working with registered apprenticeship for over a decade. So whomever is going to give us a call, we've got somebody to bring to the table that can answer those questions. And I think our strength that we rely on across the nation is that those local resources. We always want to go into a community and we want to fill gaps. We don't want to be the lead. We want to help communities learn how to fish. We want them to learn how to do this together, and we want to be the support mechanism that allows community-based organizations, RTI providers, workforce development boards to be convened and have someone that can facilitate the discussion that's going to move them from where they are to where their community needs them to be. So NIIT is a pretty unique organization. I just said, you know, we come to the table with a lot of different expertise, and we're really proud of that. But I think even more so, we're proud that we have a proven track record for rapid launch and scaling of registered apprenticeships. We just finished working in California, and it had taken a group of individuals about 18 months to try and put together a registered program. And they really didn't have the capacity as a group to be able to do that independently. We came to the table, we were able to align their related instruction providers with the needs of the community, and there were 5 different employers who came to the table. So we're talking about being able to provide not just a related technical instruction for one organization, but if any of those organizations wanted to participate, we had a program that would serve them all. And it took us about 3 months to get the program up and about 6 to get it executed. And the reason it took a little bit longer to execute on it was really because we were a full service provider. We worked with workforce development boards in the region, and they brought over 1,000 people to the table for what was about 25 jobs. We have people that are now in the queue. We know who they are, we know where they are, and we know as these companies start to add additional clients, we can go back and we can get them again. And we're really, really proud of that as well. That national talent hub really is that integrated support system. No one really has that except us, and we want to share it. Call us, ask us, you know, how can I get involved? That's what we're here. And in addition to those regional partnerships that I said were so important, because all of us come from different places, we're able to build a national partnership. So we have places we can go and say, so what worked for you in Ohio? And what works for you in California? How can we pull those ideas together, not reinvent the wheel, but instead leverage all of the experience and all of the people that have contributed and make sure that we are providing the services to our employers and to our talent and continue to change people's lives. And that's really what the Gains program is doing, is changing people's lives. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Martha. I'd like to introduce Clara. I had mentioned before about the partnership that we have with Applied Materials, but really, Clara, she's been at Applied for about 20 years, and she's held all kinds of positions, engineering operations supervisor, contract specialist, materials project manager, and now she leads up the Manufacturing Training Institute. I will tell you that when the White House asked us to supply an apprentice to introduce the First Lady for a major announcement during the National DOL ETA conference a couple of months ago, we supplied 3 apprentices that kind of we thought fit the mold. Clara's apprentice introduced the First Lady for that major announcement. And what she's very passionate about, which we share her passion, are those individuals that have a real story. First-gen folks that did. In Ohio, it was interesting. The panel talked about, and they used an example. Well, the barista at Starbucks is never going to have this type of job. And I was like, let me think about this for a second. So one of the 3 individuals that we sent, which you had met, Clara, was a barista from Dunkin' Donuts. And we said, look, at our models, learn or live. Yes, you can. First gen, nobody in her family ever went to college, but she dealt with customer interface systems. She was a group leader. She had basic skills. We said, you know what, just give it a shot. So she went the registered apprenticeship route. Within 6 months, she was tapped to be a group leader. And now, while she's completing her apprenticeship program, she's going to community college. When she graduates from the apprenticeship, she's going to be a supervisor in a semiconductor company. The barista. So there you have it. So without any further ado, I want to introduce Clara, who shares our passion, and she has some great stories to tell. So.
Thank you very much. Gracias, Mike. So yes, thank you, Mike. Yes, I'm Clara Neri. I work for Applied Materials. I represent the manufacturing facility in Austin, Texas. And so I'll start off just by telling you a little bit more about the company. We are a global company, and we call it materials engineering. So what that means is that we make really big equipment that makes computer chips, and we also supply not only the machinery, but also services that go along with it, as well as software that really focus on the semiconductor industry and display. We've been around for a long time, so we're not newbies. We're definitely not starters. We've been around in the business for over 50 years. We're headquartered out of Santa Clara, California. And a lot of you may never have heard of Applied Materials, but you have, at one point or another, are touching products that our machines make. So if you have a phone in your hand, if you're watching a laptop, if you have a cleaning robot like I do at home, or the fridge that tells you that you're running out of milk, those chips were made on our machines. We hold over almost 80% of the market with that. So you've touched us, you just don't know about us, but we're a pretty big company. We're going to continue to grow. Before, most of our machines were making chips and stuff for cell phones or computers. But now with the explosion of AI, of self-driving cars, of the Internet of Things, it's just going to continue to grow. And like I said, we're really big, so we make a lot of money. We're the #1 in semiconductor and display equipment company. We make about over $25 billion in revenue. These are just the numbers for 2022. And we spend about 10% of that in R&D. We invest very heavily in that. We are an engineering company, so we have over 17,000 patents, and we have 33,000 employees worldwide. What I will say with that number is over the past 3 years, over 40% of that workforce is brand new. So less than 3 years at Applied Materials. It's pretty significant. And we're hoping to double that by the year 2030. And with that in mind, we need a lot of people to come work for us. And so some of the programs that we are currently working on from a workforce development perspective really feed into this growth that we're experiencing. So one of the things that, of course, we're trying to think outside of the box as far as how we can really develop our talent pipeline. And so just to go to a little story here. So about 3 years ago, they said, hey, we don't have any technicians. We should do an apprentice program. So we did. And we started that with a non-registered apprenticeship program. And we hired the folks. We had about, other numbers I'm going to say is because you guys already said my story, but I'm going to repeat it because it's my story. So we had about 25 people apply for the 10 positions that we had, which at the end of the day, we only filled 8. And we had 75% attrition 3 months into the program, with almost 90% attrition by the time we hit a year, and complete attrition by the time we hit about 18 months, which was supposed to be a 2-year program. And we knew we had to do something different. And that is when my coworker, Mike Hill, came up to me and said, hey, we've heard of this company called NIIT and the registered apprenticeship programs. Maybe we should try that route. And that's kind of where the ball started going, and we leveraged with NIIT and launched our registered apprenticeship program. And with that one, we had, again, we like to start small, 10 positions. We had over 350 people apply. And so that not only expanded the group that we were looking for, right? We were looking at individuals that were passionate about education, passionate about working in the semiconductor industry, passionate about working with their hands, which is something that's really critical for people that work in the semiconductor industry with electromechanical assemblies. And turns out we were the first registered apprenticeship program in Texas in the semiconductor industry. And now California has launched it as well over the past month. They're the first registered apprenticeship program, semiconductor industry in California. And we hope to expand this over the next month or so into hopefully New York. So we're attracting a much better quality of candidates. And what I will say, again, going back to my attrition numbers that I mentioned earlier, right now we are at 6 months and we have 80% retention, not attrition. And so we're pretty excited about that and how the numbers have really flipped in a very positive direction. In addition to that, like Martha mentioned, over 80% of them are from underrepresented groups. We do have people that worked at Ross as managers, right? So they came from retail or they came from supermarkets, right? They have that work ethic. They want to know that their work is of value. And so we've attracted a really different, very passionate workforce, and we're really excited to have that. We want to continue to grow. We want to continue to leverage the gains. And just like Martha mentioned earlier, we want to make sure that, right now my program is very entry level, so very assembly into a technician type of role. California is a little bit more advanced. They have, I believe, an associate's degree and possibly a 4-year degree. But like she said, how can we make it grow? And how can we also not only look at the technician piece, but there's other areas within the business that we can definitely leverage this. And different people have come up to us, and we're trying to even expand it internationally within applied materials. And so it's been a flagship program that has really just been a catalyst for apprenticeships. And one of the things that the apprenticeship program has really helped us with is a differentiator. In the Austin area, which is where I'm at, there are 16 jobs to every technician. And we need to be able to say what is different about applied materials and why would they want to come work for us. And the apprenticeship program has become that, because we're providing them with a career path into somewhere where they can make more money and they can actually see themselves having some sort of career. So we're really excited to have that program while leveraging some of the community and industry partnerships that we have. So really excited to show that. I think I might have gone a little bit too fast. But I do have one other picture here, one other slide. And just to show, because sometimes when I say we make machines, people are like, does it look like a microwave? But no, these machines are super big. They're about the size of a small apartment. So you're looking at about oh my gosh, huge machines. But they look like this. Beautiful machines. So the front part, which is called the factory interface, that's what our customers see. There is a wall, and then behind the wall is the rest of the tool. But at the end of the day, you have the FOUPs, which are those little orange buckets that you see there. That's where the wafers sit. And then the wafers go into the machine, magic happens, and they spit out, and there's your computer chip. So it's a phenomenal process. Very happy to be here. Thank you for having me today to speak about just the benefits that the programs have had within our company. Thank you much.
Okay. So next up, we have Matt Gratten. And I had already sort of mentioned Matt and his multifaceted perspectives, right? And I think if you look at the roads that he has traveled, he can really not only speak to his current experiences at the employer, which he will, but during our discussion, it might behoove you to really gain and glean what you can from those perspectives when we're in our question and answer period. So Matt, again, is with Plug Power, one of the world's largest hydrogen generation manufacturing unit producers. That's that's the layperson's description of that, Matt. trying to make it make sense. But also, they think of it as turnkey hydrogen energy solutions. Is that more appropriate? See, I've been hanging around with you a little bit there, man. Really, his roles in higher education, we started working with you actually years ago in that role, and you have a unique perspective with the Department of Labor and a state level. So without any further ado, I'll introduce Matt Gratten.
Thanks so much, Mike. I just want to echo what Mike started out with, and thanks Sujay and the team here at CSIS for orchestrating this discussion. It's critical, and for someone who's spent as many years as I have working in workforce development, we longed, 15, 20 years ago, for the day when we could, come to a think tank in DC and really be talking about the issues around workforce development. The systems have traditionally been grossly underfunded. I know from my years in working at the state level, at the Department of Labor, when the money would flow down through WIOA or WIA, the workforce programs at the federal level, whatever was left for training usually would be spent in 6 months within each of the local workforce development boards. So we're getting to a point now where we know there's an urgency to this discussion. And I think having more of these types of discussions is certainly helpful. So we continue to shine the light, we continue to find solutions, and we continue to call out great partners like NIIT. So let me talk a little bit about Plug. I'll give you a little bit of understanding. Yes, turnkey green hydrogen solutions. We really look to develop end-to-end solutions that are completely vertically integrated from the start of the actual production of green hydrogen through the actual transportation of that hydrogen. How do we liquefy it and get it to our customers? How do we build systems to store it and handle it at our customer sites, and then to also dispense it into the various fuel cell components, which, oh, by the way, we manufacture, to be able to drive whatever that is, whether it's a forklift at an Amazon distribution center, whether it's an emerging drone technology, whether it's new ways to look at fleet vehicle and electric vehicle charging components related to that. All of those steps along the way that you see there, from the actual production and liquefaction to the transportation, the storage, handling, dispensing, and utilization, we manufacture and make at Plug. At the start of the pandemic, we were 700 employees. We're 4,000 now. So that gives you a little idea of the growth, not the size of Applied Materials, but still, relatively an entrepreneurial and innovative company that's really trying to continue to evolve the clean energy discussion and bring hydrogen more to the forefront, right with solar and wind. So we use the term green hydrogen. That basically means that the actual process to produce hydrogen is through a process that we call electrolysis. And the electricity used to actually power the electrolyzer machines, if that is sourced from renewable energy, then we're taking water, we're splitting it into its hydrogen and oxygen element, and then we go through the steps to be able to capture the hydrogen, liquefy, store it, and you see it go through that process. That means we're creating a powerful energy source through a zero carbon process. That's a little bit about what we do. 26 years, you see about 250 or so patents. We're on pace for about 45 tons per day. A matter of fact, this weekend in Georgia, we'll be commissioning and bringing online our first 15-ton per day green hydrogen production plant, the first of its kind in North America. We have over 1 billion hours of our systems in operation with our customers, and I'll talk a little bit about who some of our customers are in a second. A little bit about how we're trying to build out that network and where we are really developing and siting green hydrogen production facilities. We're looking at about 13 or so across North America by 2025. As I said, we're just commissioning our first in Georgia. We have 4 more green hydrogen plants that are currently under construction, 2 of which will be commissioning relatively soon. We've announced globally other hydrogen plant locations that we're looking at in the Port of Antwerp in Belgium. So you can see in Europe, we are deeply invested in building out the ecosystem there as well, in bringing on hydrogen plants there and in our fuel cell solutions as well. And you can see where we've started in the U.S. in terms of our hydrogen production plants in California, Georgia, Louisiana, New York, and Texas. So that gives us the distribution so that from a supply perspective, we can get hydrogen to our customers quickly. The supply chain issues are key to that. So we have to ensure that we put a lot of emphasis and effort into identifying sites so that we can have the distribution network in place to be able to get hydrogen to our customers. Who are our customers? A lot of those logos you recognize. Some of the biggest names that you see in retail distribution, food, logistics, automotive, and communications. The who's who. Anybody who's looking to really drive initiatives related to their environmental social governance goals and looking at decarbonizing their processes is beginning to look at hydrogen. And with the major investments through the administration, the federal administration in the bipartisan infrastructure bill through the Hydrogen Hubs program and the Inflation Reduction Act through the production tax credits and the investment tax credits, we're able to begin to drive down the cost of these solutions to the point that more and more companies are beginning to look at these solutions, and that's creating demand and that's creating jobs and a workforce for that. So I was brought on to basically begin to think about how do we put a strategy together around this growth to ensure that we have the technical skill talent from a manufacturing standpoint as well. So I do want to appreciate and thank Mike for offering me the opportunity, because a lot of the emphasis and the focus is on semiconductor. But we are not a semiconductor company. We're an advanced manufacturer in the clean energy space. But interestingly enough, the registered apprenticeship program that we have most of our apprentices registered in is the Industrial Manufacturing Technician trade title. That's the same trade title that Global Foundries, semiconductor fab in our neck of the woods in upstate New York, is using as well. So it reiterates the point that I think Martha was speaking to, as it relates to just providing the core foundational skills associated with an advanced manufacturing technical worker. In many instances, they're very comparable across the entire advanced manufacturing sector, whether it's specific subsectors of semiconductor, clean energy, or other types of advanced manufacturing. So this slide really kind of attempts to encompass in one picture what is our strategy around how we're going to develop our workforce and continue to recruit, train, and retain. And basically, I'm using the term we're attract, support, develop, and grow. There's basically 4 steps in kind of a cyclical wheel that really begins to start thinking about how are we thinking about outreach and exposure, priming the pipeline. Mike talked a lot about the integration and the work with K-12 systems. What's so appealing to us about NIIT and the Talent Hub resources is that we're able to scale quickly. And that's, there's been a lot of discussion around that. We can't do this in onesies, twosies, 50s, 100s. This has to be thousands at a time. And the ability to go in and to get large regional school districts and BOCES CTE programs to basically upload their student talent in one swath into the Talent Hub, and then immediately be able to have that those algorithms take effect and see how are they matching up right away against our jobs? How can we align them to what those skill gaps may be and point them to the training programs and use programs like registered apprenticeship to be able to close those gaps is really the key to that. So a lot of outreach and exposure. We're seeing a huge increase in middle school aged interactive career exploration events. School districts are now finding the money to be able to transport kids into big college gymnasiums to be able to bring 50, 60 employers together, and those employers are bringing in gadgets and ways in which these kids can touch and feel the careers, because that's the way the next generation of our workforce learns. They do not want to be lined up in rows and lectured to the way we were. They want to touch and feel things. And so we're seeing a huge increase in these types of events. So how do we develop neat types of ideas? You see the top picture there on the right is a local school, a project-based learning school in the Albany, New York area called Tech Valley High School. And that is a summer camp where we had students come to our new factory in upstate New York. And kids were actually playing with hydrogen modeled cars. So they actually assembled little car kits that had miniaturized electrolyzers on there. They took distilled water, powered them in, and the cars actually began to move, and they were able to see hydrogen actually can actually produce electricity to a point where it can get a car to move. And then we took them into our factory and we showed them, this isn't tomorrow's technology. We showed them an actual van under our joint venture with the Renault Group in France under the brand Hyvia, where we said these are vans that we manufacture today in France through this joint partnership that are powered by hydrogen-powered fuel cells with zero emission, so that these kids are drawing a correlation. This isn't tomorrow's technology. It's here today. You can be a part of it. We have to provide support. When we onboard our employees, however, I think the other thing that we're putting a big emphasis on at Plug is really being able to provide support programs, to be able to provide initiatives, to be able to support our employees when life gets in the way. I don't know about you, but life gets in the way of my job in many instances when we're looking at the types of diverse populations that we want to recruit from. We're tapping into disadvantaged communities more and more often to be able to bring those opportunities to those individuals to come work in our field. We have to be able to think about devising support programs. So there are some great programs out there. One is called the Employer Resource Network that we're in the process of implementing, that brings in a success coach that pushes on site into our company location and meets with an employee during a lunch hour or a break if they're having an issue with transitioning with their utility bill or coming off of food stamps or transportation or daycare issues. Those issues get in the way of employees very often. And those are the types of issues that I probably guarantee, Clara, led to some of that 80% turnover components as it relates to this, and I know it relates to many of our employees as well. So thinking about how do we provide support systems to be able to increase retention and allow those individuals to go back to work while a success coach helps to navigate various government programs and systems to be able to overcome that barrier is a key piece. So that's kind of the next portion after we onboard them. We have to make sure that we're supporting them to retain them while we are credentialing and skilling them up. Obviously through registered apprenticeship, I'm not going to necessarily go deep because Martha did a wonderful job really talking to you about the GAINS program. Presently right now we have, I think we have 13 or 14 registered apprentices, most of those in our Rochester, New York factory. We're going to be adding more in our Albany, New York factory. But as we bring these hydrogen plants online, it's going to be an interesting analysis that we've just started to do to look at the skill sets associated that are slightly different for the operators of these hydrogen plants. They still need to have a basic mechanical aptitude, but they also need to have some skill sets around system oversight and systems data analysis as they're monitoring very complex gaseous systems. So there's certain pieces in there where we're probably going to be looking at a few additional trades, and we look forward to starting that process with NIIT as well. We also do look at other types of customized training and skill credentialing, and when we marry that with registered apprenticeship programs, we feel we're providing the type of pathway and opportunities for our employees to continue to grow, and that goes up into the next phase of the cyclical process, and that's really where the Talent Hub fits in. Being able to look at using the hub and its platform to be able to really analyze our technicians, to be able to see where are they in relation to the actual goal occupation, whether that's to get to a technician level 5, so that we can continue to ensure, as our supervisors and team leaders are meeting with those technicians, our plan is to use the Talent Hub to be able to provide instantaneous feedback to say, all right, here's what the dynamic system is telling us in terms of where we're still seeing the skill deficiencies. And again, the system will tell us right where those training programs are to be able to close those particular gaps. And the one thing that these discussions, again, that I'm very appreciative of the fact that more and more of these discussions around workforce development are coming to the forefront, is that we are seeing more investment at both the federal and state government levels in workforce training programs and also in incumbent worker training programs, so that we can in turn drive down the cost of continuing to skill up our existing workforce as we bring them in with those foundational skills. We still have to hone them. As I mentioned, I'm using the same type of registered apprenticeship trade that a semiconductor fab is, but we do very different things than a semiconductor fab is. So there is still some specific customized skill sets that we need to articulate and train to, and the investments are now beginning to be there where it will help us to be able to keep that cost reasonable so that we can invest it back into our people. That really is kind of the framework for the system that we're trying to build. And again, NIIT and the Talent Hub is an integral partner in that. They're helping us to reevaluate our entire technician level as we tier it from a 3-tier level to a 5-tier level and be able to fit that into the Talent Hub. So really can't say enough, and I just again want to thank CSIS for the opportunity to be able to have this important discussion. Thank you.
Okay. See here. So next up, we have Jim McCoy. Jim is the Senior Vice President, North American Enterprise Client Solution for Manpower Group. And Jim's focus for about 2 decades really has been on really launching recruitment and outsourcing and services. And at Manpower, that's what he heads up right now. I'm not going to go into too much detail on what Manpower does. I will say it's their 75th anniversary this year, so they've been around a while. And I will also say that the announcement that we just made last week is substantial. And it speaks to the level of commitment of the Manpower Group on their really willingness and passion about providing a leg up to a lot of individuals for high-value careers. And they know that those individuals might not work for Manpower forever, but you know what? They're going to look back kindly and fondly about where they got their beginning, and it was actually somebody that cared. So I just have a quick 1-minute video introduction that can do a better job than I, and then Jim, if you'd take the stage, that would be great. Thank you.
The National Institute for Innovation and Technology, the leader in developing the U.S. semiconductor talent pipeline through registered apprenticeships, has partnered with Manpower Group, the premier global workforce solutions company, to establish an innovative national registered apprenticeship program that will offer training and eventual employment in valuable advanced manufacturing jobs. This collaboration will empower participants to start or accelerate their careers with a fast-track training program for positions that traditionally require post-secondary education. It will also be key to strengthening the nation's talent pipeline in semiconductor and other related industries that are crucial to the country's national security and global economic competitiveness. Within the partnership, NIIT will be implementing the framework of its GAINS program, growing apprenticeships in nanotechnology and semiconductor. Through this program, apprentices will acquire foundational skills in an earn-while-you-learn setting, positioning them for long-term employment in high-demand fields. Workers will have the opportunity to gain skills and certifications that will support their career. And Manpower Group and its partners will be able to move beyond the temp help model for short-term needs into one that trains and prepares apprentices for permanent, full-time opportunities. Employers in the Manpower Group network will have access to NIIT's tools and resources, including the National Talent Hub, a real-time online platform for educational and career prospects in the semiconductor and advanced manufacturing space. For more information about this exciting partnership, go to niit.org.
One of the lucky panelists who had a lot of my work done for me explaining what we're doing with NIIT. But I'm thrilled to be with you all today, and thank you, Mike, for the reminder that, yes, indeed, it's our 75th anniversary of Manpower Group. For those of you who aren't familiar with our organization, we're a $20 billion staffing and recruiting company. We started 75 years ago in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and with really a guiding principle that's lasted throughout those decades, focused on providing individuals dignity through work. And one of the key things that we do are exactly what we're talking about with NIIT, launched last week in Ohio, is around finding ways that we can help individuals increase the economic impact that they have to themselves, to their families, and to their communities by allowing them to upskill and therefore make more money in the work that they're doing. And ultimately, as Mike pointed out, hopefully become a part of the full-time workforce within an organization. I want to back up for just a moment, though, and talk about the situation of employment generally in the United States. Currently, we're in an environment where, despite what you might read in headlines about a number of layoffs in the technology industry, we are still at an all-time record low for unemployment. Currently, there are about 5.5 million active job seekers in the United States. These are people who are currently unemployed looking for work, but there are 7.5 million open positions in the U.S. That's down from about 11 to 12 million over the last year, but still you can see that there's a significant gap between what employers require to run their businesses and the total available workforce. And that's not even mentioning the fact that many of those individuals might not even be qualified for a number of the roles that are open, and clearly that's something that's facing the semiconductor industry today. Specific to the semiconductor industry, though, Sujay mentioned it in his very opening remarks. All of the plants coming online over the next few years as a result of the CHIPS Act, yes, they will require 70 to 90,000 highly skilled workers in those plants, but the additional ecosystem around that will require at least another 200,000 individuals supporting those plants in various forms or functions. The industry itself is only adding about 15,000 individuals net new each year, so that's creating a gap that we can see right now of about 285,000 people with a minimum of skill set to be able to start even at very entry-level positions. The entry level as it is now is simply not the entry level that it used to be. We'd heard about the barista and the Dunkin' Donuts worker. I happen to live in Boston, so I have a penchant for Dunkin' Donuts, so thanks for the mention. That individual, what did you describe? You described someone who had technical skills, they understood computer IT systems, they had soft skills, they had people leadership skills, and increasingly it's not simply good enough to start a role with absolutely no skills whatsoever. Employers need individuals with basic math skills, with the ability to have some technical savvy, because all of the equipment that they're working on now, quite frankly, is very sophisticated. When within Manpower Group, just in the U.S. alone, we place about 400,000 people. And our work with the NIIT is really focused on helping those individuals also imagine a vision for themselves within the semiconductor industry. So as a part of our partnership with NIIT, we are adding to our own training programs that we've been investing in well over a decade to support a variety of industries. But specifically with NIIT, we're adding 144 hours of certified curriculum, Department of Labor certified curriculum, that any of our temporaries, any of the 400,000 people that work for us as a temporary employee and support our clients, will have the ability to take that programming, get certified in that programming, and as a result qualify themselves for newer positions that we know to be available within the semiconductor industry. To us, this is a super exciting opportunity. We operate in all 50 states in the U.S. And with a heavy focus in many of the areas, including the state of Ohio, where there's so much additional capacity that's becoming online and such a wide gap between the number of people needed to work within those new plants and the total number of people available in those markets. So, for those of you who are looking to fill those critical gaps, I would encourage you to take a look at what is happening in with the National Talent Hub. That's the framework that we're using. You saw that again in this short video. And talk to your partners at NIIT and within Manpower Group, because oftentimes for adult employees typically looking at their first position, a temporary role is a very good way to get into an organization. And the vast majority of the temporaries that we placed ultimately do get converted into full-time employees and then become a regular part of the workforce within an organization. So on that note, I know we have a number of speakers and we have a panel, an additional speaker, and we have a panel coming up in a moment, but we're happy to answer any additional questions and also just plant the seed about thinking about, don't discount the temporary workforce as a great potential solve to some of the challenges that we'll be facing as we look to bring this new capacity online.
Thank you very much, Jim. You may not be aware, but the Manpower Group actually supplies labor to most of the semiconductor fabs and operations out there. But when you talk about, remember we said foundational skills, translational skills, big numbers, 400,000. And you think across all those strategic industry sectors, advanced manufacturing, Manpower Group is a solutions provider to many of those companies. So this is a really huge upside. And really, if you think about it, what's also good is that you talked about the individuals that stick with those employers. We'll just continue them right on to a higher level apprenticeship program. It's all within one system already established, right? But then those that don't stick, they actually have some value, some credit in their pocket that they can apply elsewhere and go into other programs. So it's really, it's the right thing to do. It's a good thing to do, and we're really happy with the partnership. So with that, last but certainly not least, I had mentioned earlier about Intel, that little chip company that's out there, right? Intel Inside. They're inside of a lot of things. And so Gabriella Cruz Thompson, she's a Senior Director of University Research and Collaboration at Intel Labs within the Intel Corporation. And she's really, she and her team really identify and fund critical large and medium scale research programs at leading universities. But she also leads the workforce development programs more broadly that really are geared towards enabling Intel's growth. Intel has, again, sort of like the multiple perspectives that Matt has, but within the semiconductor industry, there's some perspective there. They are a true leader and innovator in workforce programs, and I'm sure Gabrielle will be talking about that. And you'll be able to actually talk to a big player on what they're doing within their own house to really try to make a difference. And we can talk about how do you mold and meld and scale. So with that, Gabriella, let me see. There she is. Look at that, seamless, just like you're here.
All right, well, good afternoon, and I hope I'm sharing my slides. I would appreciate somebody nodding or letting me know that everything is being shared. All right, I hope that was a yes. Well, good afternoon. Thank you, Sujay, for the invitation. I am honored to be sharing a little bit of the Intel story this afternoon. I'm calling in from Oregon. We're hosting academics and other companies here actually today, so apologize I cannot be in DC. But one of my coworkers, David Shahulian, is in the audience. And so afterwards, after the panel, if you have any questions, if you want to reached out and talked to people from Intel. David will be there in the room. I may not need to introduce Intel, but I want to just remind us all, we're trying to change the world by advancing technology. We're trying to change the world by democratizing technology and enriching the lives of everybody on Earth. As a way of introduction, I will tell you that we have over 120,000 employees worldwide. We are operating in 53 countries. About 80%, higher than 80% of our workforce have technical degrees, either engineers or associate degrees or technical credentials from different high school systems in the different countries. And here in the US, we have over 50,000 employees. There is our employment base today. We also have been making big announcements with the incentives and our desire to bring a lot of the manufacturing of chips back into the US. We have announced a great number of new factories. We are expanding our factory in Arizona. Today, we have 12,000 employees in Arizona, and we have announced 2 new factories that are coming online in the next 3 to 5 years. And in those 2 factories, we will be hiring 3,000 direct employees. On top of the direct employees that we will be hiring, we are needing today about 5,000 construction employees. We also announced that we are expanding our operations in New Mexico. We will be hiring about 1,000 new employees in New Mexico, again, in the same time frame of 3 to 5 years. And as all of you have heard in the news and have seen our excitement over Ohio, we are starting 2 factories in Ohio, and again, 3,000 employees that we're going to be hiring in Ohio. So all in all, that makes it 7,000 new jobs here in the U.S. and over 10,000 of construction workers that we need to build these factories in the next 3 to 5 to maybe 7 years. So it's a big job. It's a job that we have done for 50 years here in the U.S. We've been constructing factories. We've been doing manufacturing of semiconductors for over 50 years. But it is unprecedented that we are doing all these expansions all at the same time. And the need for workforce is great. The need for workforce and advancing technology is something that we take very seriously. And we seek to collaborate with academics. We seek to collaborate with governments. And we seek to collaborate with others in the industry. Companies like Manpower, companies like Applied, both companies that we collaborate with on the day-to-day basis. We are trying to make sure that we collaboratively work in building up the workforce that we will all need in the future. So here as a way of introduction, I want to talk about an investment that we committed last year. We announced $100 million in investment for Ohio and for the nation in a national semiconductor education program. So we committed $50 million to be invested in Ohio, and we also committed $50 million for nationwide building of workforce. And we're partnering in this nationwide program with the National Science Foundation. I am very happy to say that we've been partnering with ATE, the Advanced Semiconductor Manufacturing Technician Education Program, under the Education Directorate of NSF. They have an open call for proposals that it's closing very soon, next week. So a shameless plug here. If you have an idea, I hope that you're submitting that idea to NSF, to the ATE program. And just last week, we also announced, in collaboration with the National Science Foundation, $45 million in awards to over 24 groups of research and educators that are going to be building the future of semiconductors. So we were very excited last year when we announced these two programs. We are super excited now that the first grantees have been announced last week by NSF. And we look forward now to work with all those awardees and make sure that they're well connected to the existing network of educators around the nation. And then I hope that we will be able to bring more collaborative partnerships with NSF and in some cases with other companies as well. Spending a little bit of time on Ohio. Everybody has mentioned Ohio here in the panel already, but I'll share that Intel committed last year a $50 million investment in education institutions in Ohio. Last year, we provided the first phase of grants. We invested $17.7 million in grants. Those grants were given to 8 leading institutions in Ohio. But I was very clear that those grants were given not to the leading institutions, but to the group of institutions, which are over 80 institutions across Ohio. And you can see here the bubbles in this map that represent all the institutions where we are trying to build the workforce that we need in Ohio. The institutions are going to be providing over 2,000 scholarships to students. We completed the first academic year, so second academic year just started, and we're hoping that many of these scholarships are already in the hands of students. We hope with this program we will be able to educate, touch, impact about 9,000 students across the state. And I'm very excited to share with all of you that last week we announced that we are addressing the semiconductor workforce shortage with a pilot program, a 1-year certification program with the community colleges in Ohio. So the program has launched in some of the institutions already in the fall semester. The students are already going through classes, but we're hoping that some of the other institutions are going to be able to ramp also in the spring of 2024. So the names of those institutions are here in the screen. And I want to invite all of you to look at the program, look at the skills that we are declaring as needed in this fundamental 1-year certificate program, because this is something that we're hoping is going to be one of the answers to this significant shortage of workforce that we're forecasting, that we've all shared already. Great numbers. Jim, thank you for that sharing of stats that you did before me. And we want to make sure that students that are right now in high school, or perhaps baristas, or people that are in traditional manufacturing roles today across the country, realize that with maybe some small micro-credentials, some few weeks of engagement in quick start programs, which are 2 programs that we have in Arizona and in Oregon, they can learn more about what the semiconductor industry is all about, what kind of working conditions there are, super clean environments, super temperature control, humidity control environments, and a really great place to work. And hopefully we are able to increase the amount of people that have interest in joining this industry. I think it was mentioned already by the panelists. We need to broaden the participation of many more communities in semiconductors. Sometimes we are transparent to the users. Yes, we are in laptops. Yes, we are in many of the electronics that we use every day, but we have not been able to educate the general public or even the high school students. So I am hoping that with the help of Mike and meetings like this, we are able to figure out better ways and new ways to reach out to a new generation of technicians, manufacturing engineers, or technologists to come and join the semiconductor workforce. We are concerned about curriculum, so we are helping, like I said, through Quick Start program, which is a 2-week introduction to semiconductors program that we have in Arizona and that we have here in Oregon. We are also piloting in Ohio this 1-year certificate. We're providing prototyping examples and tools for designers so that new designers learn to design chips. We're providing access to our silicon PDKs, our kids to learn to do design. And we are also helping faculty get retrained. We are concerned about who is teaching the teachers, who is training the faculty in new novel manufacturing processes that we have implemented in the industry. We want to make sure that students get hands-on experiential opportunities, that we are making equipment available to students in community colleges, not just in the high-end master's and PhD programs. Typically, those are the students that have access to clean rooms, but also make equipment available to community college students, to technical centers, so that they get hands-on experience before they come into the workforce, knowing a little bit about what it is that it would be expected of them once they join the industry. We have programs to encourage undergraduate students to learn about research, to encourage them to move into research jobs, because we also hire a lot of master's degrees and PhDs. And we just want to make sure that we are making available as many tools as possible to engage a new and different group of people to come and join us in this industry. So with that, I hope this was a brief introduction to Intel, and I look forward to your questions.
Okay. Are we live? I think I have to switch here. Okay. So thanks very much, Gabby, for that. I can tell you there's definitely job security in your line of work. But thanks to Intel as well. I mean, I don't think anyone can say that Intel's not doing their fair share when it comes to trying to not only help your company, but just in general, the ecosystems that you operate in. So thank you for not only your efforts, but those of Intel. The other thing I will share with you, you probably didn't know this, but Celeste Carter's in the room. So when you talk about partnerships with NSF ATE, I just want to let you know she's sitting right here and she was smiling as you were talking. So because you couldn't be here today, I figured I would share that with you. I'd like to start the questions and answers. Gabby, one of the things that you mentioned was the higher end of the spectrum when it comes to engineers. And we have a question from someone. With the advent of AI for chip design, it's becoming clear that the country and companies with the most engineers will win. What can we do to get more students to choose critical degrees like EEs and PhDs in semiconductor design? So more on the design and higher end engineer side. And this isn't directed only to you, it's to our panelists as well. But I figured I would just start off with one question from the audience, virtual audience. Oh, you're muted. Hang on one second, Gabby.
I was muted, sorry. It was here in the hardware. So I appreciate the question. It is one of our, how do we invite more students, citizens, Americans to continue to study? We recognize that there are financial reasons why people prefer to go immediately after a bachelor's degree into the workforce and come work for us. We offer great benefits. But we need more students to go into master's and PhD programs. I didn't mention during that introduction the 7,000 employees, new jobs that we're creating. We expect about 10 to 15% of those jobs will be jobs for PhDs and masters. So we definitely know that there is a significant gap of people going into those programs. We have partnered with the National Science Foundation in providing undergraduate research experiences so that we can invite people to learn what it is to do research, what it is to do in some cases 2 years more for a master's. Some universities are offering 4+1 programs, so that +1, 1 more year at the school will get you a master's degree. And so we're hoping that as employers, we are also encouraging students to stay in school and finish up, 1 more year or 2 more years to get a master's or continue on to their PhDs. I have to say, I am an example of a working employee. Intel hired me with a bachelor's, and then Intel provided me tuition assistance to get my master's. So we also do that for the people that work here at Intel. But in the nation and at large, we want to encourage more and more students to continue their education. Hopefully, we are enabling that.
Thanks, Gabby. Anyone else want to address that one, or I can piggyback on that and keep it alive?
I'd be happy to talk about it. I think what's critical is looking at this as a public-private partnership in terms of encouraging STEM education specifically. So what Gabby is talking about is really advanced education, masters and PhDs, but also how do we get kids at a younger age to think about technology as a career, math as a career, science as a career. I believe that innovative things like the way Intel talks about the roles, the kind of careers you can have, the investments in local communities, and partnering with educational institutions at a ground level is really the way that we're going to be able to address that. We're seeing it even from a commercial lens. If you think about toys that are popular, gaming that is popular, those are kind of early introductions to technology for kids. But I think we need to start instilling that excitement at a very young age, so that as we intercept them as temporaries, as you intercept them coming out of bachelor's programs and master's programs, that excitement around technology, science, the sciences has been inculcated in a very early age.
The first thing that came to my mind was looking at the slide that Matt had with his camp and students being able to touch and feel and see how that technology works, and then being able to go and see it on the larger scale and actually look at what my life could look like if I were part of this company. So I agree wholeheartedly that we need to have those partnerships with schools that start early on and ensure that students don't self-select out of these technical careers because they don't understand what it is that they could be selecting into, which is a wonderful career with a company like Intel or Plug Power or Applied Materials.
I'll just add one thing related to the AI portion of the question, and we at Plug don't necessarily specialize in use a lot of artificial intelligence. We are using some to model fuel cell innovations in relation to that, but there's a lot of discussion obviously now about AI and the potential dangers of it and how that could be. But I think my most recent university that I worked for, the University of Albany, has just instituted an initiative called AI Plus X, which is looking to cross-cut artificial intelligence across all of its curriculum. And I think, I don't want us to scare young kids away from AI, but we need to approach it responsibly as a tool that can really benefit society.
Good points. I can tell you, as you know, our theme is developing tools and infrastructure to scale. If you go to our website, you look under sponsors programs, there's one called Real Robotics. And that's designed to be scaled throughout fourth grades throughout the entire country. And basically, we piloted it right before the pandemic, but then the supply chain got wiped out, right? But basically, what that program is, it's very cost-effective. It's sponsored by companies, and what it's intended to do, it fits right into existing curriculum. It teaches how to work within teams. It has the coding component. It has the actual nuts and bolts, building the robots component, electromechanical. It's got the soup to nuts. And if you look online, it's a very powerful video. It shows that kids at a young age fourth grade is before they're told they can't. And they all, no matter what they look like, they're in. So, Jim, your point's well taken. Go after them young. On the other side of the spectrum, I think that, first of all, we're still turning out good, in the U.S., engineers, PhDs. We're very fortunate as far as on a global, from a global perspective. But if you look at technician type of talent. It's 2/3 of a workforce in a semiconductor fab, that type of environment, 65, 70%. And what we're trying to do is get the numbers up into the system and grab them and get them into the system with the foundational skills, and then the employers like Intel, Gabby, you can from there get them excited, get them on a track, right? So I'm going to ask this group about what they see as the potential of, as you know, in California, where we have multiple apprenticeships going with the California Apprenticeship Initiative, including Applied. You know, we're working on higher level apprenticeships, like with Applied, right? When you get into more of the engineering level. What's the promise, and what do we think the benefit side of the equation is when you actually work with adults that may not be currently directly on an engineering track? I know, Martha, you're focused on, you know, the higher end of those apprenticeships, for more innovative approach, but Applied, you've been involved in some of the development of it. We've developed those programs for the apprenticeship with California, and we're getting the standards approved for California. And then I think Manpower's at the table as well, so you deal with the folks in that technician space, right? But you deal with a lot of adults. And then Matt, with your experience, so I'm just going to open it up to the panel to, you know, because there's near term and long term, right? The fourth grade is not that far away, but it's not over the next few years.
I just attended a 2-day conference with workforce development leaders from across the country, and they used a term that I thought really articulated what the registered apprenticeship is doing for education, post-secondary education in the U.S. They called it a completion strategy. And they said, if you look at the data for individuals who enter into registered apprenticeship programs and are offered the opportunity to attain those terminal degrees, they are completing those terminal degrees at much higher percentages than those students who are just attending a community college. And we have examples of individuals who've participated in registered apprenticeship programs, one at a small company in central New York that it works in the coatings area of semiconductor production. And they had a veteran who started in a technician level program and is now working on his PhD at RPI in Albany, New York. So that's pretty exciting. But again, generating a structure for lifelong learning and encouraging people to continue to grow is really what we're going to do in order to keep moving individuals into those positions that Gabby was talking about. How do we get those MS and those PhDs? They don't know they can, but like it's, you know, learn, live, learn, earn. Yes, you can. That's what we want to say. Everybody has the opportunity, and by providing that broad technical foundation, it really puts everyone on an equal playing field to pursue higher education.
Yeah, I'd like to answer as actually twofold. So one of which is the adult learner that you were talking about that is not affected by the registered apprenticeship program. So I'm going to step aside a little bit to a different program that we have at Applied Materials, and it's an upskilling program of our current employees. And so we actually target the assemblers to try to move them into a technician type of role. And what we have done is we have collaborated with a community college, and we've taken away the barriers of them going back to studying, continue and finish the education piece. Some of the barriers that they have is they have families now, right? I mean, they're working for a reason. They're not at school because either they can't afford it or there's, you know, how life happens. And so now they either have children or families or elders to take care of, and so they have to work to be able to sustain themselves. And so what we do is the university comes on site during work hours, and the classes are free. And they take, we have different pathways for that. We have what we call the basic technician program, and they finish that. And we started off with the intent to make a homogenized type of troubleshooting methodology that all of our technicians could use. Schematics reading, how to do that, how to really troubleshoot, because at the end of the day, some of the people that we hire are fantastic mechanics, right? They like to troubleshoot, they like electronics, they like to tinker with things. By bringing the universities on and kind of starting with that perspective and bringing real university professors, some of them were like, I didn't know that I could go to college, right? I didn't know that I could actually pass a class that was actually, associates level type of class. Again, I'm not going to masters or PhDs. So we've had people finish that. We have had people actually go and register in an associate's degree. And so that really just gave them the opportunity that we took away the fact that it's a free class, it's during work hours by legit community colleges coming out. And now they're like, oh my gosh, I am this material. And now they can leverage the tuition assistance program to go back to school and get their education paid for. So now we're taking that away as well, right, that we can't afford it. So just different things have helped us with that from an adult learner perspective. And then we just actually had a graduation yesterday. 53 employees graduated. And just to see the joy, and they want to take selfies with their diplomas. And it's just a plain certificate. It's not even an associate's degree. But just getting them to that point, because some of them have worked for over a year, has been significant. And so we've been doing that for about 6 years now. It's become a really core piece of us. And we actually use some of those same classes for our apprenticeship program. Mm-hmm. And so it's just kind of grown on to be this magnificent element. So we have that. So that's from an adult learner perspective. And the master's PhDs, we don't really use those in a manufacturing facility. We do have those in Santa Clara, California. But what I can say is from applied materials specifically, and the semiconductor industry specifically, it's more of an awareness situation. People don't know that we have these fantastic jobs in the semiconductor industry. Or they're so niche that there's like 50 jobs for 4 people, and it's just really difficult to get to them unless you really throw a lot of money, or there's something fantastic, or their mom works there, or their dad works there, or whatever it is. So it's hard for us to get them, but if we can have a little bit more awareness. We applied materials don't really have a K through 12 awareness. We don't have ambassadors that go out to the universities and do that. However, we do work specifically in Austin. We actually bring the educators on site. So we bring the Austin Independent School District educators, those that manage the CTE programs, as well as any of the other hands-on programs. They're coming on site actually in about 2 weeks, and we showed them what we need, what skills we need, our technicians and stuff to have, so that way they can incorporate that into their curriculums and have them going that way. We hope to expand into that space soon. We're just not there yet, but more to come. Very good, and I think we're ticking down to the last minute, I believe. Sorry. No, that's all right. No, sorry. Sorry about what? That's what we're here for. I will say that there's a lot of good work being done around the country in various companies. You had some great examples today. There is infrastructure and a strategy to take advantage of, and it represents years of work of the public-private sector, as I had said in the beginning. Some of what we do, and you talk about scaling, so for example, in Micron, these are regional partners now, right? Same template, same program. So it's just lather, rinse, repeat. Micron, the partner up there, the main partner is the College of Western Idaho, and then the industry partner and sponsor of the program is the Idaho Manufacturers Alliance. When you move over to New York, their New York site, part of the Gaines program in Idaho, same Gaines program in New York. Our subcontractor there that we pay is the Manufacturing Alliance of Central New York, MACNY. And the college is Mohawk Valley University. It's the same thing. And same thing with our partnerships that you're involved in California. So we work and we've developed the curriculum and the programs at the Foothills Community College. And that lather, rinse, repeat. We're talking Austin, different partners, different colleges, and same thing in New York. So I would just think about, it's incumbent on us all to think about whatever we're doing, if it's a good practice. And Gabby, you had said that. That's first and foremost in your mind. How do you scale it? How do you share it? I think that the conversation, I can tell you from being involved with this for actually decades now, I don't know to date myself, but the conversation has gone between, got to be quiet, there's not enough talent, I'm going to grab it all, to a much more sophisticated approach and a better understanding that we have to work together to build a broader talent pipeline, and then the rising tide really benefits all boats. And so we have some great players here today. I want to thank all the panelists for your work and your leadership, and our government partners as well. As I said, it's really encouraging. I don't know who said it. I think, Matt, you had said in your portion, it's great to see the conversation rise to this level. Mm-hmm. And it's just great to be with like-minded, passionate people. So thank you to the panelists. Thank you to all, and many more that are online. Thanks to the CSIS as well for your hosting our conversation today. So thank you.